Francis Worcester Doughty was an American writer and numismatist. He was born in 1850 in Brooklyn, and was a proponent of the theory that humans existed in America during the Tertiary period, up to about 1.8 million years ago, promoting the unhistorical views of Ignatius Donnelly. He wrote over 1,200 stories for the pulps. Not just detective fiction, but fantastical adventures for boys' magazines. He died in 1917 in Cresskill. We will cover his 1892 Mirrikh or a Woman from Mars, a tale of occult adventure. George Wilde, a New York divorcee in his 40s, is wandering around Cambodia after his wife's desertion, as one does, when he runs across a man being pursued by an angry mob in Phnom Penh. Wilde would lead him to the US consulate for safety, but he gets lost on the way, so his strange guest Mr. Mirrikh phases through the ground and disappears. Sometime later, Wilde is walking around the ruins of Angkor Wat with his friend Maurice, the US ambassador, meeting a severely agnostic former priest named Philpot in the ruins. The Doctor, as he is called, influences Maurice to demand Wilde let them raid Mirrikh's travel bag, which Wilde found left behind in Phnom Penh to find out who he is. Mirrikh then shows up out of nowhere and leads them around the jungle, allowing them to liberate a woman being tortured by local woodcutters to get her father's imaginary gold he does not have. This woman named Walla is restored to her father, and then Mirrikh annoys the group some more by constantly teleporting from place to place and declaring he came from the planet Mars. Some months later, Wilde, Maurice and the Doctor are stuck in a barren inn in a barren corner of Tibet during a snowstorm, waiting for Mirrikh, who promised to take Maurice to Mars. Mirrikh does arrive as an inanimate corpse carried in a litter. He then stops being dead and tells them he simply didn't want to bother with the whole trip while being alive. So he left his body until it arrived. He then leads them to the ruined monastery of Psamdagong and shows them dead bodies kept in a vault to be used as vessels to be inhabited by visitors from other planets. He and Maurice breathe in some gas and are shot out into space spiritually, as Wilde, who does not believe in any of this, stands guard over Maurice's body, even when the monastery gets flooded and they are besieged by the monstrous spirits of the ancient people who inhabited the valley 10,000 years ago. Finally, the old Lama accompanying them from Psamdagong betrays them and leaves them to their fate in the tunnels, after already expecting them to be beheaded in Lhasa anyway. Then Maurice comes back from Mars, taking the spirit of his Martian wife with him, but this makes his body too heavy to actually be able to move. So they have to wait for Walla, who is in love with Maurice and stayed with them the whole time in the monastery guarding his seemingly dead body, to accidentally kill herself so Maurice's Martian wife can take over her body. This happens and they get out safely, never getting to see Lhasa. Rosa Campbell Praed was an Australian writer. She was born in 1851 in Bromelton, Queensland, the daughter of Thomas Lodge Murray Pryor and Matilda Harper. In 1872, she married Arthur Campbell Bulkley Praed in Brisbane, moved to Cattle Ranch, and then moved to England in 1876 to start a brewing business. Her 1882 Nadine, based on the life of Olga Novikov, was her first massive success. In 1897, she and her husband were separated, and Rosa began to live with a medium named Nancy Harvard, who she believed was a reincarnated Roman slave girl named Nyria, something Rosa wrote about in a novel of the same name. She died in 1935 in Torquay, Devon. We will cover her 1886, The Brother of the Shadow. Mesmerist physician Lemuel Lloyd receives a letter from his old friend Julian Vasher, asking him to take care of his wife Antonia. She is suffering from intense neuralgia and requires constant doses of opium, and Lemuel is supposed to mesmerize her to help with the pain. But Lemuel is enchanted by Antonia and slowly influences her to love him, though not truthfully, being egged on by Murgap, an Egyptian adept of the left-hand path, who he has accidentally made aware of himself when letting Antonia fall unconscious and witnessing their diabolical ceremonies through Antonia's latent clairvoyant powers, and who then tries to corrupt Lemuel, convincing him to summon a demonic entity to try and supernaturally murder Julian before he reunites with Antonia. But then she sees him trying to do the whole trying to make a ghost strangle her husband thing and is not pleased. Before Julian comes, and Lemuel is struck dead by the forces he unleashed.